Hey, everybody. I am Dr. Andy Rourke, and this is the Uncharted podcast. Guys, I got a great one from the mailbag. I think it's very timely. It's one that I get really geeked out about. It is a question about AI in practice, and I've got an associate vet who wrote to us and said, our practice is suddenly doing a bunch of stuff with AI, and we're using it to write emails, and the doctors are using it in the exam room, and it feels like a lot, and I have some concerns, and everything is going really fast. Am I just being the fuddy-duddy who doesn't want new technology, or are there some actual valid reasons for me to be concerned? And if so, what do I do about it? That's what we got in the mailbag. I have got Maria Parita, CVPM, riding shotgun with me as we do this episode. Maria is going to be doing a workshop on utilizing AI in the practice, the best tools and tips and hacks on actually using AI resources. And it is at our Team Leads Summit, which is on October the 15th. It's a virtual event. You can join from anywhere. We have people from across the world joining our virtual summits. This is a great one. Check out the information on Team Leads Summit. It will be linked up in the show notes. Guys, without further ado, let's get into this episode.
And now, the Uncharted Podcast.
And we are back. It's me, Dr. Andy Rourke, and my dear friend, the one and only Maria Parita. Welcome, Maria Parita. It's good to have you on the show.
Thanks, Andy. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
I always enjoy our episodes. I do miss Stephanie Goss, but I do love me some Maria Parita. And so I am so glad when we get to sit down together. So how have you been?
I'm good. Life is really, really good. We just got back from an amazing training program that has quite literally filled my cup so much that I am still glowing.
You and I just went to Singapore.
I mean, it was huge.
And worked with medical directors from Thailand, Hong Kong, and Singapore.
I mean, I didn't want to brag. Now I feel like we're bragging. See?
Oh, that's just a Wednesday for us. I mean, that's what we just do at Uncharted. Nothing out of the ordinary. Do that all the time.
No, it really was just such a wonderful experience. I mean, I love what we do, Andy. I love that we get to go help people. I really, really do. I love talking to people in veterinary medicine, but in general, I'm somebody who I really appreciate different cultures, coming from a different one, being Mexican American and kind of fitting into two different cultures my whole life. I genuinely love to see how the rest of the world works. And in that experience, we got to hear some of the struggles of, some of the managers in all over the world. And so some of them were very similar, leadership management struggles that we were having. Others were totally different from just the laws that they have for their technicians and things. So it was cool.
Were you surprised by how similar the vast majority of the headaches were in Asia compared to in the States?
I think I was surprised. Yeah. I would say I was.
I was too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was anticipating. I had been there before, and I've gone out and I'd been to those hospitals, and I'd been out to Thailand, and I'd been in Hong Kong and visited the hospitals and interviewed a lot of the doctors and things. And so I knew what I was walking into, but I was surprised the first time I went there. But then it still got me the second time when we went back to work with the doctors. The world is so similar. There are cultural differences, but they're fairly superficial, really. People are genuinely people. And they have the same interactions and headaches that, everywhere that we go. And, I've been to practices in Ecuador, in Spain, in Portugal, all across Canada. It was even, in Quebec. And when you go there, it culturally feels very different, and it's just wonderful and beautiful. And then you get into actual practice life, and you're like, oh, this is all the same. Yeah. So I do love that. I do think you're spot on. The big differences are in regulations, Yes. So, in Thailand, technicians are not allowed to do anything. But Thailand is actually smaller than the state of Texas. Do you know that? So they're smaller than the state of Texas.
And I've been there. It didn't feel that small.
It's got 18 vet schools. And the country is smaller than the state of Texas. And so just the dynamics are just wild. We have veterinarians everywhere. The veterinarians are at the front desk answering the phone because they can't get a job working, with actual patients. And, there's stuff like that I just thought was fascinating.
I think that's so cool, though, because And so I'm doing a lecture at the Latin Veterinary Congression in León, Mexico, coming up in September. And I'm very excited for that.
I'm so pumped for you.
Shout out to Mexico. But I've been interviewing a lot of veterinarians from Mexico for that reason, because I always want my content to make sure that it applies to, the different dynamics. And so it's crazy to me because, when you ask me, like, were you surprised by some of the differences? Surprised by the differences and by the similarities. I was definitely surprised by how many similarities there were in management and leadership. I was also surprised by the laws that they have in place and those struggles and how those dynamics fit, just because they're so different from country to country. And so I guess what surprised me the most is just the way that people kind of still work around the same goal and still get to that same goal post, just in different ways. And so that's what excites me in veterinary medicine, is just hearing all the different ways that there are to do things. And so I thought that was really, really cool. And so I'm loving it. It's been fun.
It's super cool. And now I really do think that's, for the stuff that we do when working with practices and especially like medical leaders, that's the next level of complexity, is these significant sort of differences in how cultures are sort of set up. So for example, I'll tell you this. Think about, we just talked about Thailand, and they've got a ton of vet schools in a very small space. And so you've got lots of veterinarians just hanging around wanting jobs. I've worked with practices in the Netherlands and, so Utrecht and places like that. And it's beautiful there. The taxes on hiring employees are astronomical, which means basically if you hire somebody, you're going to basically pay their whole salary again in taxes. And I think they have a wonderful social, safety net.
Yeah.
And you get a lot for your tax dollars, but that's a big part of it. And so the vet practices in the Netherlands, they're tiny. Like there is a vet and a tech, and they answer the phones, check people out, clean the rooms, do all the things. And it's a like literally 2 to 3 person practice. And that's all that's there. And they are very efficient. And it's just because the cost of bringing in another person is really, really high. And it's incredible because everything is different. When you have 2 people, you have a tiny practice. There's no reason for you to have a big sprawling practice for 2 people. And you might as well get as efficient as you possibly can. And so the standard of medicine is just as high, and the doctors are wonderful and very smart. But it's funny is when we talk about management and leadership in the States, we're saying leverage your support staff, leverage your support staff, leverage your support staff. And if you go to the Netherlands and start talking about that, they're going to look at you like you're bonkers.
They're like, what staff?
Because they're like, well, I am the support staff. I am the doctor and the receptionist and the support staff and all those things. And so anyway, but that stuff is just fascinating, but it makes me love the profession even more.
Yeah, me too. And boy, talk about complexities of culture in general. One of the biggest complexities that is coming around in our culture lately, I think, is what we're talking about today, which is AI.
What a great transition. That was a flawless transition over to one of the things that's affecting the way we practice is AI. Yes, I do agree.
I'm a little
We
proud
have
of that
not
one.
talked a lot about AI other than I have kind of gushed about my experiences with it in practice at the beginning of some episodes. But this is our first AI episode of the Uncharted podcast, as far as someone wrote to us and they're like, I have a problem with AI
Yes.
and I don't know what to do with this. And we looked at it and we're like, this is a good problem to talk about.
Yeah, it is. I'm really excited for this one. So essentially, we have a clinic who recently started using AI in their daily workflow. And what they started to do, it sounds like they have some kind of AI, medical note taking. So whether they didn't say what kind.
Scribe,
Yeah, but I'm assuming something like, there's so many of them lately. And it sounds like, their techs and their doctors are really loving that. They also have found that their receptionists are using it to help write client emails back. And so they're kind of seeing it be used more. But now they're also talking about using AI for appointment scheduling. So it sounds like, based on the mailbag, allowing clients to book their own visits. So I'm not sure if that's AI necessarily software or if it's software obviously we've seen the other software that kind of allows for that.
Yeah.
And so this veterinarian, they did say they were a veterinarian, associate veterinarian here, says that they're a little worried about using AI or going into AI so much because for them, the notes are obviously really important. They're afraid of things getting misinterpreted, missed in general, or not recorded currently.
Or just being incorrect.
Yeah, that's just it, right? So they think it's a little bit creepy that it's constantly recording you, which I've thought was hilarious because that was something that I immediately thought also.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is kind of creepy. But essentially that's it. Their main question is, how do I find the balance between staying current and staying in control? Like, where do I really draw the line with AI in the clinic? Like, they don't want to be old school and like be the one that gets left behind within this vet med, innovation, but at the same time, they're kind of embracing it. And they're like, I don't know about this.
And nobody wants to have "Okay, Boomer" shouted at them in the clinic. Like
that is very much the vibe I got here. Was just like, I don't want them to yell at me for being a boomer, but at the same time, like I'm nervous.
100% feel that. I really do. So let's start this episode with some headspace here. Mm-hmm. And so people have heard me say good things about AI. I am optimistic about AI. I really am. I'm optimistic about kind of everything. That's just sort of my worldview is to look for the positive.
Yeah.
And I use an AI scribe in the vet clinic, and I love it. And at the same time, I definitely have as many concerns about AI as anybody. And so I saw this interview with Sam Altman, and he's the CEO of OpenAI, the company that made ChatGPT. Yeah. And it was what I thought was really fascinating was they said to him, what have you been most surprised about with the rollout of ChatGPT? And the CEO said, I can't believe people trust this software as much as they do. And he did. He was like, that does not make any sense to me. He was like, it hallucinates. It does.
It does,
It makes, if it doesn't have an answer, it makes one up. And like, this is the guy that essentially made ChatGPT is like, he's like, don't get me wrong, it's great and it can do incredible things and it can be really helpful. You can't trust it. And I thought that was really important to put out.
I think by now we've all kind of heard the story of the news. It's a source that sent out an article with book recommendations that weren't real, right?
Yeah, it was like your summer reading list. It was in like the Washington Post. I mean, it was like a real magazine or a real reputable newspaper, and it was a big deal.
And so I think that's all what we're talking about is just like, I'm not surprised by that at all. I mean, even what I am surprised by is a CEO or founder's honesty like that he was just plain honest that way about his own product I do find that surprising. I don't find the fact that that it's not as reliable as we think surprising.
Well, I think he was honest because at some points if you can't hide a thing, you look awful denying it. And so, if you've got articles where you go to ChatGPT and say, what is the best summer book list you could make, and like some of the books just don't exist. They're just complete fantasy. I don't know, you hand wave that away. I think he did the smartest thing was to be like, this thing is great. And I think I really liked what he said because that's been my experience is it is phenomenal for writing professional emails, especially when you're mad. A client has, sent you a howler, as my mom calls it, like a nasty email. And you're trying to respond, and the truth is you're mad, and you're not being treated fairly, and you're triggered. Boy, AI is phenomenal for taking your sentiment, having you can write it all down, and then say, "Help me write this in a professional way." And it's excellent at doing stuff like that, and so it's really, really useful. I told you I love my AI scribe, and at the same time, it's not perfect. AI is not perfect. It's going to continue to not be perfect. I think that he really put his finger on it when you say, it's super useful. You should not trust it this much. And I think that's where I am with AI. I want to say from a headspace standpoint, we live in a world of extremes, Maria, I think. And it is, I don't know why people are this way, but you are either A or B. You are black or white, you are in or out. You are conservative or you're progressive or you are like whatever the dividers are. And in this case, it really does feel like you're on Team AI all the way, or you're on Team Skynet and you're like, this is going to destroy us all. We have to shut it down.
Yeah.
And that's really not how life works. I think most of us live our lives in the middle. And I think this is one of those things. I look at other parts of vet medicine. And so I'm doing a Cone of Shame podcast today with Dr. Matt Saloy, who's the CEO of the VMG groups. And boy, he's an economist and just anyway, a brilliant guy. He wrote this great article. That was what we're going to be talking about, where he's asking us to move our profession forward with some thought. And, he's like, we should be a little nuanced about this. And so like one of the things, for example, that he talks about is like a VCPR. And I am a fan of trying to make medicine more accessible and trying to be able to help people out sort of financially in a way that works for the vets and the clinics to support them, and to make medicine more convenient. All those things are important to me. And at the same time, I do not think we need to throw away the physical exam and say, that's not required. That's not necessary. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's just one example of saying, I want both of these things. I want us to, look at how to make our practice accessible. And that does not mean that I'm throwing away our physical exam, our attention to detail, our authentic relationship building and having hands-on pets. We've got to sort of find this middle path. And so I think that's kind of where I come down in AI stuff right now as well.
Yeah, I think I have that as part of my headspace as well, is a couple of things. I think being cautious doesn't make you old-fashioned. It makes you responsible. And I think that that's really, really important to keep in mind. Because I think I use AI pretty regularly. I've talked to you about it. I love it. At the same time, I'm very weary about using it on a regular basis. And so I use it with intentionality, and I use it very much like a tool. But anytime people ask me about AI and how to use it, my biggest thing with it is it's here. It's not going away. It's totally normal to feel like torn between this innovation and clinical control. We don't have to have it do our work for us. And I think a lot of people visualize AI as, it's just going to do all the work for me, so then I don't have to do anything. And it's just like, that's not really how it works. And if you look at history in general, taking that easier path usually comes with its consequences. Like it does, no matter what you're talking about. Like you're trying to lose weight, you go and you use the pills and the things, it's going to have its consequences versus you going and you doing the hard work and working out, right? Like all of those things, the easy way usually has its consequences. And we are starting to see the consequences of AI being used for everything. And so I don't know if you've seen the brain scans. I think I sent them to you not that long ago.
Yes.
We were nerding out about this. But those brain scans from MIT are showing that it is very much not lighting up when we use AI, but it is when we use when we do the creative work of writing and things like that. And so we know that, and we've also seen that there are some mental health issues that are starting to appear from people who are using AI like a friend. And you hear that a lot, which is kind of weird. You hear that, and I hear it a lot mostly on like social media. Like a lot of the younger generation is like, ChatGPT is my best friend. I ask it about everything. And I'm like, that's wonderful that we have a source that we can go to help and get answers. However, I don't think that it replaces necessarily things like therapy. I don't think it replaces things like our friends and colleagues who know what's good for us, people who might be able to give us, the hard conversations, their hard advice. And we know that based on AI, we know that it tells you what you want to hear. And so I think it's perfectly normal to be cautious here. I think that that's the right thing to do as you're using AI. So I think for headspace that's all very important.
So I completely agree with that. I had this idea that I think it's a pattern across everything. The way that we as human beings are made is if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yes.
And that's true of your body and it's true of your mind. And we've already seen it with your social media, especially like TikTok. If you do not use your ability to focus, then you will lose your ability to focus.
Yep.
If you do not sit and consume long form content or read or do something that takes more than 30 to 60 seconds, then your mind just kind of goes, we don't really need to keep this whole attention span thing up and going, and you get weaker in that regard. I do think that there are significant long-term concerns about offloading your brain work and letting your brain get really weak. So there's this classic story by H.G. Wells, and it's called The Time Machine. And so there's this time traveler, and he ends up jumping into the future. And ultimately what he finds in the future is like the earth is just been wiped away, and the jungles have sort of come back. And there's this species of fleshy, useless creatures that are surviving on the surface. And there are these monsters that are below the surface that come up and eat them every now and then. And I'm going to ruin the whole thing. It's 100 years old. The story is 100 years old. If you haven't read it now, I'm sorry, you've missed it. The spoiler is the fleshy, useless people are the upper class of the human race.
I knew it.
They got so used to not doing anything for themselves, they became completely useless. And the monsters are the working class who actually had to do everything. And they've sort of commuted to this place where they didn't have arts and things. And so they became this sort of evil sort of thing. Anyway, that's the whole thing. Is the big reveal at the end is both the predator and the prey are the remnants of the human race when they came into this weird relationship where one of them does not do anything and the other one has to do everything. And so anyway, but I think about the useless humanoid species. The other example is in the movie WALL-E. Remember the people in WALL-E who were just like fly around in floating chairs because they couldn't walk? It's like, is that where we're going? But it's not just our body, it's our mind as well. Anyway, so there's that. And again, I will say, I use AI a lot. And people go, well, what do you use it for? I love my AI scribe. I like being in the exam room and not having to jot things down, not worrying about or trying to remember specific details, like which leg was injured, in the past and when they first noticed things. All that stuff is being captured. And I really, really like it. A good AI scribe is great at listening to a long conversation that rambles and the client jumps around in the timeline. And at the end, the AI pulls it out, puts it all in order, bullet points it, makes it just beautiful. My medical records are so much better when I use an AI scribe than when I do them by hand. And I'm more present in the exam room and it's significantly faster. And so there's things like that I love. I already said, I really like AI for like writing difficult emails or emails where I'm frustrated or things like that. The AI scribe that I use generates a discharge email that I send so that I send it to the people and say, this is what we talked about. This is what we're going to do. If I have links that I want to send, I just drop them into that email and send them. Like there are a lot of really, really great things around AI. The AI scribe I use as well, it also pops up differential diagnoses, which is great. And I try not to rely on them. I always have my own plan, but it's really nice to look and say, is there anything that I missed or anything I'm not thinking about? And so all those things are really good. The downside, I'll say, here's my concerns. And so I think this is kind of to sum up what our writer talked about. One, I've already talked about the slippery slope of convenience. And I really worry about us giving away our brains to AI. And here's the thing. Imagine that you have a vet and you give them AI. And imagine it's a brand new vet, just a new graduate veterinarian. They don't have a lot of confidence. And they get in the habit of just asking AI, should I do this? What should I do? What should my next step be? We have all worked with people who hang on. They cling to a mentor, right? And you're like, look, you've been doing this long enough. You need to be making your own calls. There is now zero pressure for that person to make their own calls. Like they can always get confirmation. They can always check themselves. And my worry is if you have vets that just get to where they are reliant on AI and they get answers from AI, very soon you don't need a vet to get those answers. You can have someone else with lesser degree of training who's capable of interfacing AI. Also, if pet owners come to believe that that's what's happening, they'll just talk to AI themselves. And then we have really removed ourselves and the sense of value around veterinarians. So anyway, that's the slippery slope of convenience.
That's already happened a little bit. There was a story that was circulating around social media for a while. And the news article was like, I asked AI for veterinary advice and it fixed my dog where the veterinarian couldn't or something. And that was like the headline that was kind of going around. So I feel like that is already happening. So we're seeing that.
I do think that we're heading for that. I think it's going to launch us into a whole other conversation about what the modern veterinarian or the future veterinarian looks like. And I do believe it is, you better be good at using AI. But you need to position yourself in a way where you are not just replaceable because of AI. And I think that there's a way to do that. But I think it's a larger conversation. The other fear that they kind of mentioned here is the big brother fear. Yeah. And I have had actual real concerns about this. And again, I said, I really like my AI scribe. The fact that everything that I say is recorded and can be processed in different ways is not lost on me. And so I've talked to people who are talking about what can we do with these AI scribes? Because it is very possible to, let's say that you have an AI company and you have people using your scribes, and let's say a hospital group is all using your stuff. You could tell that hospital group that Dr. Andy Rourke only recommends senior blood work this % of the time compared to other times. And when he makes recommendations about this joint supplement, they're very weak recommendations. That's what the AI believes, and blah, blah, blah. And so the number of things that you could use to micromanage me with are enormous. Yeah. And I do think that there will be some people who will who will screw that up. Like they will use this to nitpick their doctors and their techs and just to critique everything and to really, really micromanage. And the ability to micromanage using AI that's in the room recording, to me, is absolutely, absolutely huge. And so I think that there is some concern about that. I think that's going to go badly for the people who do it, but I would not be surprised if there's not a little bit of concern about Big Brother listening in. Like I definitely understand that.
Oh, absolutely there is. I think that there's fear in general around what the future looks like. I think that there's a lot of people that are nervous about what AI is going to replace jobs with. We have seen AI already being used for like a force of evil, as you will say, that there's already lawsuits about people's images and video and being used in video that they shouldn't have. So it is very scary, which is why it leads me to that part of Headspace too, is a couple of things. AI is a tool. It's not a replacement. We talked about that for professional judgment or mind gaps. We know that. I think especially for our associate veterinarian here, I think when we are in a part of a team, we need to focus on what you can control instead of what you can't stop. And I think that that's really important for this Headspace because AI is not going anywhere. And we've talked a lot about the dangers of AI and why it's perfectly normal to be afraid of it. The other thing about it is that it's not going away. We're seeing it. And so I don't go to drive-thrus a lot because I've been trying to eat healthier and not avoid them. We got home from the airport at like midnight not that long ago, and it was way too late to get anything else. So we went through a Wendy's drive-thru. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a person checking, like asking me what I wanted. It was a screen and an AI voice, and it told you are speaking to AI right now. And I was ordering through AI at the drive-thru, and I was shocked. I was like, we're already seeing it in these capacities. So we know for a fact it's not going away. It's here, and it's probably going to be here to stay. I think the most, from a Headspace perspective, focus on what you can control and not what you can't stop. And recognize that, I think it's good to be wary. I don't want anyone in our audience to be so scared now that they're not going to use AI. And that's, I think now we're getting into action steps a little bit. But I just want to say that it's not going away. We should be cautious about it. The best thing we can do is learn how to use AI effectively, which is actually why, shameless plug, I'm doing a workshop for Team Leads Summit called Smarter, Safer AI, and it's actually practical tools for veterinary team leads, because I really think one of the things that you just talked about is super important, and it is how much information we share with AI. At this time, we should not be sharing client information, and I see this happening already in my posts. So it's like all of that confirmation about the patient and stuff, about the client, some of that stuff can be confidential, and you can get in trouble if you're sharing too much in AI, because those conversations aren't between you and AI only, especially if you're using free versions of AI. And so the paid models obviously offer you some protection. There's also companies that are having the protection, but that's something to consider is when we're using it, even for client emails to help them respond, we need to make sure that our team is not just plugging in the client's, phone number and email address and the specifics about what's going on and leaving it very blank as in a client. And so there's a lot of these risks that I think we need to make sure we know, and how to actually use AI in a smart, safe way is something that I think we as practice leaders and managers are going to have to start training in our teams moving forward. But I don't want to get to that yet because now I'm getting into action steps.
I was going to say, you're just go ahead and give it. Our Team Lead Summit is coming up on October the 15th. It starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time. It runs through the day. It is virtual, so you guys can jump in from anywhere. If you are a head technician, if you are a lead CSR, if you're a lead kennel tech, anything like that, if you are in a support staff leadership position, this is going to be a phenomenal day for you. Maria's doing our AI section. If you're still listening to this episode and you're like, I am interested in what they're talking about, you're probably someone who's going to benefit from this. And I always love very practical, pragmatic discussions of what do we do? How do we do it? What do we want to look out for? And that's very much what this is going to be. And so I love this, Maria. I love that you decided to do this workshop, because I do think that this is putting real, actionable, practical tools into the hands of team leads in a way that they're actually probably going to be able to implement them in their practices and really make an impact. And so anyway, I love that you're doing that. Let's go ahead. Let's take a break real quick, because I feel like this is all starting to bleed into the action steps. And I just, let's get to work on this.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's get into some action steps here. And you kind of hit on this. So I'm gonna jump in here and grab the steering wheel because I want to sort of firm up some of the stuff you've already said. Number one, the first action step for me, which you already hit on at the end of the last segment, I think one of the big mistakes or big problems and challenges with any conversation right now around AI is it has a tendency to feel existential. It's like, boy, we're all doing this and we're doing these things and AI is everywhere. It's like, okay, cool. The first thing, if you're the person writing in and you want to feel better, is you have to put all that noise aside and say, we are specifically talking about AI in the context of our vet practice, not practices in general, not veterinary medicine, not veterinary education. I am talking about looking at AI in your practice with what you are going to use it for, full stop. And I think if you can, first of all, if you can do that at the very beginning, all of this gets much more manageable. It's much less overwhelming. There's no reason to wave our hands or worry about what's going to happen in the future. It's just saying, all right, let's look at what we are trying to accomplish in our practice with our day. And let's only look at AI in the context of those things and what we're trying to do.
I love that. I really think that it is kind of a little bit about my headspace too, but the main thing is to remember that not all tech fits every practice culture, and that's okay. And that's what I really wanted to say is, obviously it sounds like your clinic is kind of embracing AI and it fits that with them a little bit. Just know not everything is going to, and that's all right. And so I would not be too worried about this in that sense. Having open and honest discussions about, what works for you and your clinic are super important as a team. And at the end of the day, it is a tool to make you go faster, right? So focusing on is this a tool that is going to help us? And if so, how can we use it safely?
Yeah. I really like that a lot. And the idea, it goes back to those extremes. You do not have to do all of the AI things. Yeah. You can do some of the AI things. You can do the AI things that make the most sense to you and not do other things. You can do some of them now and some of them later on. I think we'll get to that. My second action step was one I felt like you also really hit as well, which is, first of all, know the systems that you're using and how vulnerable are they or how private are they? And you already called out the number one example for me. There are a lot of people out there who are putting client information, their name, their telephone number, things like that into ChatGPT, just your regular free or paid subscription, non-medical services. And I don't know what the legal ramifications are of that. I think this is really unknown territory in a lot of ways. But we want to be very careful about giving personal information about our clients and putting it out into something like that where other people might be able to pull that up. It could be shared in ways that our clients don't want or, wasn't asked for. Now, that said, you can absolutely say, well, I have a client and this is what's going on. And I am writing an email to them about this. And you can totally approach things that way and still get the benefits. But you need to be smart about what you're doing and not start putting, again, sensitive or personal information into these AI engines when you don't own those engines and they are not, approved for privacy or for client confidentiality.
Yeah, I think that's huge. This kind of reminds me a lot about when social media kind of started to come out and there was a lot of unknowns about what was going to be legal and what was not going to be legal. And so this is another gray area right now. We know that this is not private information, that when you put it into ChatGPT, it goes into a big database and it gets shared with a bunch of other people. And so that is actually one of the action items I had. And I took it one step further, and it was to create a policy that outlines what is okay and what is not in your clinic. And if you are an associate DVM, you might have to work with your practice manager on this. But I think setting clear boundaries on where AI is to be used or not be used is really going to help to set the right expectations, and really just training, right? Training for your team, because the truth is a lot of us want to jump into AI. We want to start using it. We want it to make us more efficient. But in that want comes, the jumping in without caution. And I think that's when it can get dangerous. The best thing you can do for your team is truly run workshops, run educational things, have them listen to this podcast, have them attend the Team Leads Summit, whatever it is, make sure that they're getting that education around how to use AI properly, and create policies. Just like you have your social media policy, you should have your, AI policy as well. What do we need to make sure that we're doing to protect our clinic, our team, our clients, and our patients?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think for me, one of the action steps is asking for a phased implementation.
Yes.
And so you're not saying no. You're saying, let's not do everything at once.
Yeah.
You're saying, let's pick some areas where we want to implement AI and then do those areas and pay attention to them and do some actual quality control here and make sure that this is okay and there's not ramifications that we don't know about and we haven't figured out yet, and make sure that everybody is doing this in an organized way. And it's not the Wild West where different people at the front desk are doing different stuff and there's all kinds of different formats of emails going out and everybody's using a different AI script to answer the phone and okay, we can do this, guys, but sometimes we have to slow down to go fast.
Yeah.
And I think that in implementing things like this, there is real benefit in slowing down and doing one thing at a time. And so if you're going to do AI scribes, let's just do AI scribes. And if you're going to implement a new system to do scheduling, let's wait until we've got the scribes nailed down and everybody knows what they're doing and we've done some quality control testing and we feel good. And now let's all pay attention as we implement the online scheduling, or however we want to do that. But a lot of it, I think people get excited and you got a lot of different people sort of driving the bus and everybody starts doing all the things at once. And it's not wrong to say, I'm not opposed to this. It's important to me that it is approached in an organized, systematic way. And we do one thing and we make sure it's the way that we want it to be. And then we do the next thing. And it might take over a year for you to get the things implemented that everybody wants. And that is totally fine because 1 year in the grand scheme of things is not that big a deal. It's really not. And so this is a way for people like me who are boomers who are like, oh, I don't want to look like I'm shooting this down, but also I'm concerned. It's amazing how often you can ask for slow, steady, intentional change. And you're not saying no, but you are increasing the chances that things are not going to get out of hand, that we're not going to have a Wild West scenario. And also that if there are problems, they are recognized early and addressed. And also once you do that in one area, you're more quickly to spot those problems in other areas and to address those problems going forward.
Yeah. I love that you said that, Andy, because part of me was wondering if the practice manager at this clinic perhaps put in a lot of change very quickly. And that's why the associate is nervous or cautious around AI, right? And so that was actually part of my action steps too. If you can, pilot changes slowly, test scheduling AI internally before it rolls out to clients kind of thing. Those all help to get the team buy-in in general. But most importantly, it helps to decrease the fear of all of these things changing. Because the truth is people don't naturally love change. Even those people that do love change still need a little bit of time to kind of adjust and get going. So I couldn't agree with you more. I was personally wondering if maybe that was something that was going on at this clinic already they're changing a lot in a short amount of time. People are scared, I think
that's a safe bet. I mean, just looking at it, either we have sort of a management team that's like, let's go, or the management team has got their hands off and this is organic change where people are just picking things up and doing them organically. And management has not leaned forward to say, hey, everybody. I'm noticing that we're changing our workflows or we're, using new tools that we haven't really discussed here. I could see it going either way, but the outcome is the same. And I really think that stepwise process is important. I think exactly related to that as well, I was going to say one of the action steps for me is having some sort of a reporting system for errors that are done by AI, which means if we're finding medical records and we're finding in the medical records that there was clearly an incorrect drug written down, which is one of the things that AI is bad about. I'll tell you, I love my scribe. It will mishear something and just run with it. And so, you might say cefpaderm and it's going to put cefazolin. And, it won't ask you. It won't be like, I'm sorry, what did you say here? It's just going to go with cefazolin. And that's what's in the medical record now. And so, we all have to look out for our own stuff. And you need to know, again, going back to Sam Altman, use it. It's a great tool, but don't trust it. And by not trusting it, that doesn't mean you don't use it. It means you need to verify. You need to check your stuff. You check your work, recognize that it will get things wrong. And it's not going to ask questions. It's just going to go with whatever it decides is the right. It will hallucinate and go with that. And so if I'm finding the wrong drug written down, it would be nice for me to have a place to put that and say, hey, in this chart, I found a drug that I believe was incorrect. Yeah. And some of that is just a sort of event reporting to the practice. And other part of that is starting to pay attention and be honest about how many errors are getting made here. Because if I have a 5-vet practice, I might be the only one who's finding any errors, and maybe nobody else is finding any at all. Or maybe we're all finding errors and thinking that we're the only one. And in reality, we've got a real accuracy problem. But I don't know. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it, And so having some sort of error problem reporting system where you say, hey, when you see something that was a mistake going into our medical records or going into our client communications or whatever, we need to have a way of just cataloging that. And I'll just be clear to people, this is not a vote for or against AI. It's just helping us understand and not have blind spots about where we need to pay attention and where mistakes are getting made. So anyway, some sort of a event reporting, mistake reporting type system around these programs. It's just good implementation.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be there forever either. If you say, we're using this new appointment scheduler and I want you guys to document all the mistakes that are made. Whenever clients show up and they thought they had an appointment and they didn't, I want you to just send me an email about it. Whenever they, miss appointments and they were like, I didn't ever ask for that appointment, just document that. And let's look and see over the next 3 months, how many of these problems are we having and what do they look like? And then we can make some adjustments.
Yeah, I think that's super smart. I honestly do think that auditing exams and medical charts in general should be an ongoing thing. So I think that that's just good practice to helping your team out, to catching mistakes, to ensuring that there is, the level of quality that we're looking for. So AI is no different. It's in the sense of we need to make sure that we're checking for those mistakes. I have so many more do's and don'ts that I don't think we're going to have enough time for. So all I will say is the last one, which is don't give up full control. Don't assume that AI is this plug and play where you can just go in and do all of the work. Just remember, you can still oversee things. Even if you're using AI scribes, it is still human review that is best above all. And if you want more do's and don'ts, or you want some prompts, you're just going to have to come to Team Leads Summit because we don't have enough time here. But there is a lot more, I'm sure, as the adult does. I can't not say that enough, is that you do still have some control here to our associate veterinarian. And that is that you can be the one to review your own medical records. You can just make sure that those things are getting noted the same way. Don't plug and play, and don't let basically convenience outweigh your quality or accuracy, which it doesn't sound like you're letting it already just by submitting this mailbag in the first place. But I think those are all just smart things to remember.
I agree with that. The last one from me, and this is actually a really important one, and you could argue it could go in Headspace and almost put it there, but I'm like, nope, this is how I'm going to end. The big thing from me that I want to say to people is, do not forget that you are capable of making adjustments going forward. For some reason, people imagine that once the genie is out of the bottle and people start using Gemini to help write emails, that can never be stopped. We can never not do that again, and we'll just, ride that train to oblivion. And it's like, nope. It is very possible to say, we tried this and it's not working. Or saying, you know what, I gave this a chance and I'm looking at the errors that have been made or the downsides, and I do not believe that we should continue to do this the same way. I think we're going to need to find another way to do this. And I don't know why people don't imagine that they can do that or say that. You absolutely can. It is not, you get on board now and the doors lock and there's no way off. You can always make adjustments, and believe in yourself that if you go down this path and things start to arise that you don't like or that you didn't sign up for, you are a competent, capable person who will be able to address those problems in the future when they actually exist. And I think there's a lot of people who say, well, what if this problem happens? What if that problem happens? What if that problem happens? Say, well, make good choices here as we start to try to set ourselves up for success, and then know that there will still be problems. And when those problems actually begin to happen and you can see what they are, have confidence that future you will be able to address those problems and will wade in and fix them. And so I just think that is a good, healthy headspace to make this not feel so scary going forward.
I love it. That's great.
Cool. Well, thanks for talking through this with me. I am super excited to see you speak on October 15th at the Team Leads Summit. And it's going to be a phenomenal day. And I hope some of our friends from the podcast are there.
Yeah, me too. And if you are there, let me know, because that'll be even more fun to be like, yeah. All right. This was really great. Thanks so much for taking time to chat this through with me.
Oh, man, I so enjoy it. Thanks for being here, everybody. Take care of yourselves, gang.
Bye, everyone.
And that's what I got. Guys, thanks for being here. I hope this was helpful and interesting. If you like AI stuff, if you stayed here till the very end, you should maybe think about checking out our Team Lead Summit. And you're like, but Andy, I am not a team lead. I'm like, you could probably still come. I mean, don't tell anybody else that I said you could probably still come, but you could probably still come. Anyway, it's going to be a phenomenal event. If you're a vet tech lead or a lead vet assistant or a kennel tech lead or a CSR lead, you definitely want to be there. So anyway, guys, I am super grateful to have you here. I hope that you learned something. I know I did. I'll see you later on.